Hello and welcome. My name is Brian Caplen, editor of The Banker. I'm here with Joy Macknight, who's the technology and transactions editor, and we're doing the monthly preview for the October issue of The Banker. It's a special issue for Sibos this year, Joy, and you've written a cover story talking about the rise of the Asian regional banks. So tell me about that.
Well, I think it's so interesting because the strong domestic banks in Asia have been building out their transaction banking capabilities for the last little while. But now to take it to the next step, they've actually pulled in this global talent from the global banks. And it's very interesting. So earlier this year, you saw Carol Berndt, who moved from RBS to ANZ in Hong Kong. Late last year, you saw John Lawrence, who had a long career at HSBC. He moved to DBS in Singapore. And also the Commonwealth Bank of Australia has pulled in the real expertise of Ka Chai Tan, who has set up his own consultancy, but they brought him in to build out their trade finance capabilities.
Okay, and what you say in the article is there's a sort of a push and a pull, all right? So obviously these are the attractive banks to go to. They're growing very fast, the region's growing very fast, but also in the big global banks, we've seen a little bit of the opposite, haven't we? So we've actually seen some contraction there.
Yeah, I think it's the global economic environment that we're dealing with. The big global banks are either like at the worst end, they're retreating from some markets, but a lot of them are just playing defense in the markets that they're still in, whereas these regional banks are really growing. And really, I think for the talent that's moving there, they're thinking, okay, we can finally start playing attack in the marketplace again. So I think that's the real draw.
Okay, and you've also written a piece about Asian corporate cash management, and you talk about the sort of regulatory challenge there. So what did you find in that story?
The most interesting thing is that trapped cash, which is always a big issue for corporate treasurers, has become a bit less so just because the Chinese authorities are opening up and liberalizing the cross-currency flows of renminbi. So that makes it easier for them to put that cash into their cash management structures like cash pooling. So that's made it easier. And there's other jurisdictions that are also liberalizing more so.
But against that, you've also got the trend of volatility in emerging market currencies. I mean, has that had a bit of an impact on the market?
I think so. I think there has been, it's not all just a one-way street, actually. So there are some jurisdictions that are actually putting in, stricter currency controls, such as Indonesia. So it's a very hard environment for corporate treasurers really to negotiate. Yeah, I think that's the most difficult part for them, is really to keep on track and keep on top of what the regulatory changes are.
Okay, so let's turn to the actual meeting itself. And Sibos is going to be in Singapore. It's a real high-tech city. I mean, what do you think are going to be the big talking points at Sibos this year?
I think innovation is going to be the hot topic of this year. I think there's been a lot of buzz around blockchain, distributed ledger technology, which underpins it.
And people are very divided about blockchain, aren't they? I mean, I meet bankers and some of them say, well, we've got to embrace this. It's going to be the future. Some people are very skeptical about it.
But that's the thing. There's the worst side is the idea that it's going to be the death of correspondent banking. I think a lot of bankers don't believe that. And what you see is a big take-up in terms of the banks coming together. So there's now about 22 that are working with R3 to actually understand blockchain and the technology behind it and how it can actually help their business. So I think, it's sort of a bit of a wait and see, and how are we going to really engage with this technology. But I don't think the idea is that most of them are actually really engaging with it and not sort of turning their back on it.
Okay, but I mean, all the banks, big banks now, they have innovation centers and innovation offices, and they're pouring a lot of cash into it. I mean, can that be effective? Because we normally associate entrepreneurial change with the smaller companies. Can they effectively address it like that?
I think so, and they're definitely trying to do it on an individual basis. But I guess what a lot of banks are looking for maybe is a bit more of a collaborative effort. So having a bit of an industry response to sort of these fintech disruptors, and how, as an industry, the banking industry should be responding to that. So I think that is something that will come out at Sibos, actually. And as one banker said to me, it's the place to happen, really, because it's where everybody is at, and everyone will be in Singapore, and it will be under discussion. So.
And it sounds like it's going to be the first year for several years where innovation is going to be more important than regulation.
I think so, yes. I think the thing is that regulation is, will still be a topic this year, but I think it will be less so, because I think the idea is that everyone is sort of, has been struggling with regulation for quite some time, but now it's sort of more moving into more of the implementation phase. So all of those big discussions have been had out, and now it's sort of just moving forward.
Okay.